everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I am doing that Q&A that I promised you guys a couple weeks ago. Sorry it's taken me a little bit to get to it. So without further ado, I'm just gonna jump right in because let me tell y'all asked some good questions, some long questions, like long answered questions, and there's a lot of them. And I'm old school, so I totally printed them off on paper because that's what helps me stay focused just a little bit better. So I'm just gonna dive right in and answer these for y'all. So I do want to kind of clarify, I had kind of a recurrent theme with questions. So I grouped some of them together because I was asked multiple times some certain homeschooling questions, budgeting questions, and just certain things about our family. So I apologize, like I'm not going to like personally address every single person because I didn't want this video to be, 2 hours long. And this way it'll just help make it shorter, and it's literally the same question. So just to kind of clarify that up front. All right, so getting on with it. Another thing to say, there are some really good juicy questions in here. So stay tuned all the way to the end. I promise it'll be worth it. Because y'all asked some really good questions and some hard things too. Like, I get it. I'm kind of excited to address some of these. Okay, so moving on. So this was from Jennifer Cousins. If one of your children asked to go to public school, how would you feel? So none of our kids have asked to go to public school. I guess this is how I would feel. I don't know. It wouldn't bother me to say, like, if they asked, I would, inquire like why and stuff like that. So with that said, some of our kids have asked to go to a private school that's close to us. Because their friends go there. And whenever I have asked them when they were like, hey, can we go to this school? And I've, we can discuss it, stuff like that. Why would you like to go to the school? And they said, because their friends go there. So that just kind of tells me that I need to reach out and schedule some play dates with those friends because they miss seeing those friends because they don't see them as often because they don't homeschool and they don't see them like at our co-op and stuff like that. Does that make sense? So it wouldn't bother me. Like, I'm not against public school. So anyways, so Sandy Hare asked, how old were you when you had your first child? I was 22 when we had Taylor, and 23 whenever I had Addison, and 24 whenever I had Peyton. And just keep going like for 11 years, 14 years, something like that. No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, Christy Williams asked, what made you decide to start a YouTube channel? And what do you use to edit your videos? So I don't know. I kind of did it on a whim. I don't even know what made me like start watching YouTube. I enjoyed watching some large family vlogs on YouTube. And I just thought, well, I would really like to do this. One, to kind of capture my family memories. I don't have time to like scrapbook anymore like I did with our older kids. And I was really hoping and praying that I could be an encouragement to moms out there to know that you're not alone in this journey of motherhood, and to hopefully show the world of what a blessing children are and can be. I think in today's day of family sizes not being so large, like the value of children isn't seen as great as I feel that it is. And I was just hoping that I could show a little glimpse into that, of what a blessing children are. So if that makes sense. And I actually film on my phone and I edit on an app on my phone. I'm not fancy, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm not good with technology, but I can do my phone. So anyways, Tanya Harvey asked, what made you decide to homeschool? So I kind of had it on my radar to homeschool all along. Once Nathan and so some of the questions that I'll get into that people have asked, like, how did we meet? How did we decide to have a large family and stuff like that? I'll get into those, further on. But where we live, the public county schools are not the greatest. And so that's what made me want to homeschool. And when we lived in Georgia for 5 years. That's where we actually had our first 4 kids. The schools there were phenomenal. And I was like, I really don't know that I can do any better than the school system here. So I kind of honestly wavered back and forth of what to do. And actually the year that Taylor would have went to VPK, or that's what we call it here, would have went to pre-K, was the year that we moved back to Florida. So that kind of like secured my homeschooling career. But we did still pray about it and just sought direction from the Lord of what to do. And that's just what we felt was best for our family, was to homeschool. And here we are, however many years later, I don't even know. It's been a long time. Okay, so Lindsay posts, hi Lindsay, I've been talking to Lindsay some through email and stuff. So she's actually expecting baby number 4. And she asked if I ever have hesitation or anxiety in those early weeks of pregnancy before the first ultrasound. Yes. And honestly, I would say it gets worse with each baby. Not like I'm sitting there like and so much anxiety that I can't function or anything like that, but it is on my mind. And I do worry about it because we have been so incredibly blessed with healthy babies, healthy pregnancies, that it is on my mind like it's my turn for something bad to happen. And that's just a terrible way to think, because that isn't how God works, you know? So whenever I have those moments, I just stop and pray. I tell Nathan how I'm feeling, and he always says, you always feel like this. And ask him to pray for me. You know, I'll try to listen to worship music. If it's really bad, you know, I'll seek help from a friend and just say, you know, I'm kind of struggling with these thoughts. Will you please pray for me? Something like that. So I would say, I mean, I'm still anxious and nervous. I didn't really feel it as bad this time. I mean, I did feel it, but it wasn't quite as bad for some reason. I don't know. All right, so I found this question super interesting, okay? How are you adjusting to having teens starting high school? While watching, she watched a curriculum video that she referenced. I was thinking about how it's common practice nowadays in schools to talk about puberty, reproductive systems, to talk about that in the school system. And it made me wonder how we would handle those talks with our kids with both your religious views and homeschooling. So I actually found this very interesting because the schools do talk about it, but I don't think it's the school's place to teach our children about, you know, life, about how babies are made or about their bodies changing. I really think it's for the parents' discretion to talk to their children. Now I get not all parents are going to sit down and talk to their children, but I think it's very important. And I think it's important for one to be an ongoing conversation, not just a one-time, hey, this is how it's done and move on. I think it's important that the kids are aware and that they know that they can come and talk to you at any time with any questions that they have. I am very open about that stuff with my kids, and we talk about it, I mean, open-endedly. I'll bring up certain things to the kids, or if the kids ask me questions, we just sit and we talk about it. I try to do this one-on-one or with like sets of kids. So like my 3 older kids, my 3 oldest daughters, they're kind of all in the same place. I'll sit down and we'll have a good conversation, but I will also talk to them one-on-one. And I also like check in with them and like, hey, you know, this is with all of my kids, how are you feeling? You know, stuff like that. Because especially in the teenage years, like I just remember feeling super awkward and stuff like that. And I just want them to know, 1, that it's normal to feel this way. 2, that they can talk to me about anything. And I think that's important. That because if they can't talk to me about anything and everything, they're going to seek that someplace else. And not that that's a bad thing. I just want them to know, 1, what God's word says about this. And 2, I want to know how they're feeling so I can help them and pray for them. Hope that makes sense. So I actually have gotten a couple of resource books. I can't remember what the first one was called off the top of my head. I did not read it to them directly. I kind of just more read it myself to help me give the verbiage to explain things to the kids. Anyways, but then there's also another good book set that we just got. It's Growing Up God's Ways for Boys and Growing Up God's Ways for Girls, that we are going through the kids individually. Not so much my older girls because they're kind of past that. But anyways, I just found that question very interesting. And hopefully that encourages some parents out there, because some people do have a hard time talking about those subjects with their kids. And hopefully that just encourages, like, it's really not that big of a deal to sit down and talk to them. Like, it's actually interesting. And just to teach our kids ourselves. Okay, so I get this question asked a lot, and I honestly don't mind it at all. I do realize that it seems rather strange that we decided to send Reagan to pre-K. So the question from Eileen is that she was wondering what made us make the decision to send Reagan to pre-K outside the home. So I have homeschooled all of our children all the way through this year, sending Reagan to pre-K. So that private Christian school that I had previously mentioned that some of our kids have asked to go to has a free pre-K program, and it is relatively very close to our house. Okay, I honestly would have sent kids there before, but logistically, I had just a ton of little kids, just me, and it just was very hard for me to fathom taking them there. Plus we had our co-op and I wouldn't have been able to pick them up and stuff like that. So this year it worked out logistically for Reagan to go. It honestly, so like I said, I would have previously sent other kids and I kind of had like tried to figure it out, but it just wasn't happening. And then this year it was very close to when school was going to start. And so I actually know a couple teachers that are pre-K teachers at the school. And one of our friends got a job there this year. And I was finding out about that. And they were like, you should really send Reagan. She would do good. And Reagan is that type of child like that I knew that she would soar and do really well. She is such a quick learner and she is super, super smart. And we prayed about it and I was like, you know what? I really think that this would be good for her. And at the time, honestly, I was overwhelmed. I was expecting our 10th baby. And I was thinking, you know, I've got to start sitting down with Reagan as well in our homeschool. And I thought, well, what if we did just try this and see how it goes? Worst case, I don't like it and we can pull her out. It's not a big deal. So we decided to send her and it has been really, really good for her. I'm almost positive we will send Harper. I'm finding, I think like, so in pre-K, they just get that really good phonics foundation and they come out reading. And I'm not going to lie, like I have so far taught 6 kids how to read and it's a lot. It's hard. And I knew Reagan just having that constant instruction in school like that, she would pick up on stuff really, really fast. So anyways, that's why we decided on it. So like I said, it's a private Christian school. Pre-K is free. The rest of the school is not, obviously. So that's why like we ultimately haven't sent our kids there because, well, we can't afford it. But Kinley's crying now. Okay, so I hope that answers that question and that made sense. It's just what has worked, and I'm always open to what works for the now. Just what I did with other children doesn't mean it's necessarily right for each child, okay? Okay, Amy Jones asks, what advice would you give a homeschooling mom for the first time? Would you give a mom, sorry, I can't read, y'all. What advice would you give a mom who's homeschooling for the first time? To enjoy. We get so overwhelmed, and I still do. I promise y'all, I still do. We get so overwhelmed by their education is all on our shoulders. It's our responsibility. It's a lot, and I don't take it lightly. But within that, don't lose the joy in your homeschool. Write down your reasons why you decided to homeschool, because I promise you, you will need them to go back and look at. Pray for your children, pray for you, pray over your homeschool. Try to make, you know, time for the fun things as well. It's so easy to get bogged down in bookworks and workbooks and trying to make sure that we, you know, are doing all the, you know, checking everything off the checklist, but make time for the fun too, because kids don't just learn inside of a workbook or inside the classroom. Go outside and enjoy nature, you know, take a nature journal, draw some things and stuff like that. Just enjoy your kids, read aloud as much as possible. I love doing that with my kids, and I wish I had done it more with my oldest kids. I obviously learned a lot as I went along the way. So the main thing is to enjoy and write down your why. Okay, so Marina Rosa asks, which kid do you think is the most like you and which is the most like Nathan, personality-wise? I like that question. That is really a very good question. So I would say personality-wise, Addison is probably the most like me. Addison and Miley. Personality-wise, I would say Taylor and Peyton are the most like Nathan. Jackson is a lot like Nathan as far as like athletics and stuff like that. Once you get to know Nathan, like he's super friendly, will pick on you relentlessly. That's just what he does. He's very, very goofy, very, very playful, but he's kind of reserved at first. I'm the more outgoing out of the two of us. So once, like, you really know Nathan, like, you won't get him to stop. Anyway, so Amanda M also asked, what's your best homeschool to homeschool mom advice? So I would still say the same thing, to enjoy that sometimes it's good to put down the books and go on a nature hike, go outside, do an art project. I love to go outside with my kids and garden, and all the kids get involved and help me, and they are learning a lot right there. Like, they may not even realize it, but they're learning how to plant seeds and, you know, different types of plants and all those fun things that go along with gardening. I'm looking at my garden right now. That's what made me think of that. But to enjoy and learn along with your kids. I have learned so much more as a homeschool mom than I ever did in school. It's really cool. Okay, abiding farmhouse. So Shasta, why are you so awesome, girl? Anyway, so if you have not checked out Shasta's channel, her channel on YouTube is Abiding Farmhouse. She's also a large family mom, and she's expecting her 9th baby. So go check her out. I love Shasta. So Tamika asked, she said being a homeschool mom of 11, she is mentally answering all these questions, which I thought was hilarious. I was like, girl, answer them. Okay, so Meg asked, so this is where I'm going to group some of those questions together so she asked this, and then I had several others later on. So again, I'm sorry if I'm not like saying everybody's name, but I had several questions asking what Nathan's job was and budgeting type questions. Okay. So Nathan works for a telecommunications company. He has been there for a very long time. And then as far as budgeting, I hope y'all aren't going to like my answer. Okay. So I asked a lot of, like, how do you budget for a large family? How can you afford a large family? How do you make it work? It was like over and over again. Okay. But she also asked how we afford living for a large family. Do you have multiple streams of income? So I'll answer that first. So I told y'all where Nathan worked. Multiple streams of income. So Nathan has always worked. Nathan's job does provide overtime. And honestly, that's, you know, where a good chunk of our money comes from. Hey, Harper, what you doing? Hey, baby. So that's where a good chunk of, you know, our extra money comes from. And Nathan knows, like, hey, I need to work so much overtime to help, you know, pay for this or whatever. And over the years, I have done various different things on the side. Not anything super consistent, but I have watched kids in our home. So this is dating me a little bit. So when Taylor, Addison, and Peyton were little, so they're 14, 13, and 12. So let's just say 11 years ago, roughly. Those big bows were all the rage in little girls' hair. They still are. But I didn't have the money to buy 3 big pink bows, one for each girl to wear, you know, on the day that I wanted them to wear it. And then if I wanted them to have pigtails, I needed 6 bows, okay? This is serious business. You girl mamas know what I'm talking about. Anyways, I didn't have that kind of money to just go and buy stuff like that. So I learned how to make them. I did. I wanted them to have it. I couldn't afford it. So I figured out how, you know, I could afford it. And I actually was approached by a store. They saw the girls wearing these bows and they were cute. They were like, did you make those? And I was like, yeah. And they were like, bring us in some and we will buy them from you. So for a period of time, I made hair bows and sold them in different stores around Georgia. We lived in Georgia at the time. So God has just kind of like opened up different avenues for me to earn extra money on the side, whether it was selling or making something and selling it, watching kids on the side. Right now I'm making a little bit of money on YouTube, which is very helpful. My prayer with that has been that God would bless what I'm making here so that I can help pay for the extra stuff for the kids, the activities that they want to do. And God is providing for that right now. Okay, Amber Michelle had asked how long I've been on YouTube. So I started about 3 years ago. I wasn't very consistent for a long time, went back and forth. Honestly, had no clue what I was doing. I've learned a ton along the way. I'm still learning a ton. And here I am. So I got super consistent. I think it was June or July of 2019. So I would say consistently from there, I have been on YouTube, to where before it was very hit or miss. Okay. All right, so how do you respond to a family that judge your family size and the fact that you homeschool? So this is another good question. Actually, our family is very supportive of us having a large family. Now, sure, along the road, like we had a few extended families, members, aunts and uncles, not our immediate family, but kind of question like, what are you doing? Like, really? You're having another baby? But once we had about 6 kids, once you reach crazy town, people just stop questioning you. I promise. At least in our family they did. Anyways, I think people just saw that 1, we were happy. 2, that we were enjoying our life. We were enjoying our children. And so they just kind of stopped questioning what we were doing. I would say that we actually probably received more questions regarding homeschooling than large family. Which is kind of interesting. And again, after a few years of us homeschooling, I think that they saw that the kids were okay. They're not complete weirdos. And so at first homeschooling was kind of weird, and now it's kind of become more of a trend, especially since COVID and stuff like that. But I had some family members actually decide to homeschool and, ask me for help, and I'm obviously was more than willing to help and stuff like that. So it's been neat. So with all that said, our family is very supportive. I actually receive the most negative comments that I ever have is through YouTube, from people commenting on my videos and stuff like that, which is, it honestly just kind of cracks me up. Because first of all, if you don't like large families or if you don't understand it, don't watch. Like, you can move on and go find whatever floats your boat. But for some reason, people, I guess, feel like it's, I don't know, their right to an opinion because I have a YouTube channel. It's like, why would you choose to have another baby? Okay, if you're not paying for their food, paying for their diapers, providing their education, your opinion really doesn't matter. That's all I have to say about that. So anyways, if you don't like it, just march on along to another channel that floats your boat. Why waste your energy on something that you don't like? Go find something that you do like. But I think honestly, those people are just really unhappy and that they are finding joy in trying to hurt people. And that's just really sad. And I'm praying for those people. So Lola asks, how many more kids do you plan on having in the future? Lola, I do not know. Right now, I know that I'm having 1 more baby. And that's how I live my life, is 1 day at a time, 1 baby at a time. So right now I'm planning for 1 more baby, and that's all that I'm worried about. Okay, so I cannot pronounce your name. I apologize. Are you going to change the arrangement of the kids' rooms when the baby arrives? And I actually had this question asked a lot as well. So at any given time, if a room situation is not working, of course we're going to change it. I think that's normal to do, whether you have 1 kid, 2 kids, 3 kids, 10 kids, right? Like, we want what's best for our kids. And if a room arrangement is not working for whatever reason, yes, we will change it up. I promise. Our kids are not going to stay in a situation if they are not happy. We have changed things many times over the years because it just wasn't working. And I thought, well, maybe this will work better. Or I think I may like this better. So yeah, we switch it up. So right now, actually, in our latest updated bedroom room tour, I can link that in the description box below if you want. It's when we were preparing for Kinley. So Drew technically has his own room, okay? It just worked out that way. Once he is out of his crib, he will move in with the boys in their room. There's already a spot for him. They have a triple bunk. And a lot of people have commented about the size of the headroom in the triple bunks. I promise you the kids are fine. And if and when the need arises that they have outgrown those beds, we will do something different. Okay. A lot of people were concerned like teenage boys aren't going to fit in there. Well, right now Jackson's 10. Okay. And he fits right now. So that's all that I have to worry about. So say in 2 or 3 years, he doesn't fit anymore, I'll buy him another bed. I promise I will. Like, it just kind of cracks me up. Like, even if you only have a couple kids, like, I had many different beds growing up. I was like, Mom, I want a double-sized bed instead of a twin. And we got a double-sized bed. Like, I don't know. Like, it's not the end-all be-all forever. Anyway, so kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent there. Sorry. So Drew will move into the boys' room. So more than likely, Kinley will move into the room that Drew's in. Actually, I kind of want to switch the rooms as it is anyways. I got to talk Nathan into it because it means that he has to take apart the triple bunk and re-put it together in another room. And that just doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun. So I got to catch him on a good day. I'm going to get there. I promise. I'm going to buy him his favorite ice cream and then ask him. Anyway, so because the room that Drew's in is just slightly bigger and he's like, it's not that much bigger, Jessica. I'm like, but it is. Like, I just want to move them. So, we have so many different options that we can do. So the new baby will obviously go in our room and Kinley will move out of our room. So whether we put Harper or Reagan or Miley in the room with Kinley, something like, we'll switch it up. I don't know exactly what'll happen, but we'll figure it out when we get there. Right now I've got about, I was going to say 6 months, maybe 5 months. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Not too worried about it. So to add to that, when we had 6 kids, okay, so we had 2 kids literally in every single bedroom. We have a 4-bedroom house. We converted what I'm in right now. It was a playroom. We converted this into our older girls' room. So technically we have 5 bedrooms now. So when we had 6 kids, we had 2 boys in a room, 2 girls in a room, 2 girls in a room. I was like, Nathan, it's perfect. Like, the kids all fit well. We have plenty of room. This is when we really thought that we might be done with having kids. And then, you know, like I couldn't imagine whenever I had 6 kids having 10 kids in this house. Like, seriously, I could not fathom it. But I don't just wake up one day and have 10 kids. We added a 7th and we just rearranged things and made room for Reagan. And then we had an 8th and we rearranged things and had room for Harper, had room for Drew, had room for Kinley. And now I'm kind of like with Kinley and Drew, I was kind of like, we'll figure it out. So that's kind of how I am now. We'll figure it out. We'll get there. Okay, so hopefully that kind of explains something. Anyways, so Michelle Jackson asks, do you go through seasons of doubt and discouragement in your spiritual life, and what do you do to bring yourself out of it? Yes. Yes, absolutely I do. I am not perfect. I struggle with the best of them. Sometimes I have seasons where I'm having bad anxiety, or I've even struggled with depression over the years. But I know that those feelings are not from the Lord. So once I realize where those feelings are come from, and I can start praying specifically, that's what I do. I start praying and I'm like, Jesus, these feelings are not from you. Please take them away. I, get rid of them in the name of Jesus. There's a lot of power in prayer. I will constantly play worship and praise music. I will tell Nathan how I'm feeling. I had a season where I really was struggling. I was really depressed. No reason. There was no reason for me to be depressed, but I was. But there is so much in coming to your husband and saying, this is how I'm feeling. I need you to pray for me. I need you to be there for me. And he may not understand, and that's okay. He doesn't have to understand, but he does need to be there for you and support you and pray for you. And that's just what I've done. And I will again reach out to my really close friends and say, hey, I am struggling. I need prayer. And I have got so many close friends that will stand with me in agreement and pray for me and check in with me and see how I'm doing and even help me. Hey, Jessica, this book is good. This podcast is good. So on and so forth. So those are the things that have helped me. Okay, so Glory in the Mundane asked, I would love to hear how you keep your cool when the kids are going nuts. And she kind of shares a little bit of what she's going through. I'm not always that great at keeping my cool. I'm going to be completely honest. I struggle. I lost it today on the kids. It's hard, especially with a bunch of kids and a bunch of messes. So today was kind of a rough homeschool day. And I had on my mind, I wanted to film this video. I was just overwhelmed. The kids were being loud and crazy. It's super rainy and overcast outside. Yucky. So the kids can't go outside and burn that energy. Anyways, trying to get school done with Jackson. I promise I'm getting to a point. Jackson could not focus. So I literally locked myself in my room so that Jackson could just read to me, okay? Because that's important. I mean, that is very important, right? Anyways, we finished what we were doing. We come out. Now, I left my older girls. I was like, this is what I'm doing. They were handling lunch for me. I don't do that to them every day. I promise I don't. Anyways, I walk out and it's a mess. And I'm like, guys, seriously. Okay, you're old enough and you're capable of knowing when to clean up. Anyways, we had a powwow. We talked about it. I mean, they need to clean up their messes after themselves. So anyways, what I'm getting at is I'm not perfect, okay? So I know what triggers me, and it's the major messes. Now, some days I have the complete patience for it. Some days I don't. So we do, scheduled pickup times. It's usually after school, after lunch, and after dinner. And if it's like really getting to me, I'll grab the broom and I'll sweep. Oh, goodness, I think I swept 4 times yesterday, okay? So just knowing what triggers you and try to help control it. So if it's messes, try to help contain those messes the best that you can by having multiple pickup times, so on and so forth. The other thing, if I'm struggling a lot and it's happening a lot, I reevaluate. What is the root of this problem? Am I taking care of myself? Am I drinking enough water? Am I eating? It's easy to forget these things as a busy mom. Am I sleeping enough? Am I feeding myself spiritually? Am I getting into the word? So I try to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. Worship music really helps me. I turn on worship music. If there's something, the same thing with the kids, like if the kids are arguing a lot, like certain kids, sit down, there's a root there, like there's something that happened and we have to figure it out. We also have to teach them, appropriate behavior on how to work through those feelings and stuff like that. So I'm not perfect, I promise. And I struggle just like the rest of us. But that's what I have found that helps me is figure out what the trigger is. And am I taking care of myself? That is huge. So stop and take care of yourself. Okay. So Lindsay Post asked, anything new that you were looking to purchase for baby number 11? What are your must-haves for new babies? Not necessarily firstborns. So we don't really need a whole lot. If you can imagine, we have pretty much everything. For the new baby, so it's actually not even for the new baby. It's for Kinley. I'm going to need another crib. I need a crib. Now, by the time, I don't know how it's all going to work out exactly. Drew may move out of the crib fine, and Kinley can go in that crib. So I will need 2 cribs because Kinley and the new baby will only be 13 months apart. So that's not, far enough apart to where Drew and Kinley, it might have worked out perfectly. So Kinley's in a pack and play in our room. Drew's in the crib. So I will need to get another crib. And then I need to get a new umbrella stroller. I really just like simple stuff. I don't like big and bulky strollers. They're heavy, all of that jazz. I don't like them. And once the babies are sitting up, I love an umbrella stroller. And so I had bought a new one with Drew. And it was in the garage, not for very long. Like this past year, we had a lot of stuff get mildewed in the garage. I don't know why. I was actually very upset about it. But it was only a $30 umbrella stroller. Nathan reassured me, it's okay, Jessica. We can go get another umbrella stroller. Because I was really actually very upset about it. Anyways, I want another umbrella stroller. Kinley's at the age that I can put her in that. And I like that better than the bulky stroller. So baby must-haves. I really like the Rock and Play, which that's discontinued now. But I still use it. I actually really didn't use it for Kinley. So I called it the Papasan swing. It went like this is a seat. It went like this. I loved that with my other kids, and that broke and died. And so with Drew, I have the Mom for Moms, I think is the brand that it's called. I borrowed it from a friend. So I've done that too, is where a friend isn't using a certain baby item, I've borrowed it. I still have it because she hasn't had another baby and I keep having them. Anyways, I didn't really like it. I didn't use it. I did use it for Drew, but I didn't use it much for Kinley. It's actually still sitting there. That's why I keep looking over there. I don't know. I was thinking about that. I might get a new swing for this baby. So I buy new bottles for every baby because it just grosses me out. So I buy new bottles for every baby. A few outfits, we buy a blanket for every baby. So like I said, we are very, very simple. I really don't need much. I'll buy some cute clothing just because, we're excited about a new baby. But that's pretty much it. Okay, so California Mom. Hi, California Mom. So you'll have to message me your real name. I need to know your real name. Actually, I have it, don't I? Anyways, I've talked to her a bit too, but I will always know you as California Mom. Anyway, so Will you be buying a bigger van this year or using 2 cars when you're all going someplace together? So we were already looking at buying a new van before we found out that we were pregnant. Because we have a 12-passenger van, we are at full capacity in that 12-passenger van. We need a new van. Because oftentimes, we want to bring the kids' friends home with us or friends with us wherever. Or if we have grandma or my sister or whoever, like it's nice to have extra room, but we have filled up that van ourselves anyways. So yes, we are really hoping to get another van. Hopefully before this baby comes. Actually, I would like a new van like tomorrow. So the thing with buying big vans is it's not as easy as going out and buying a minivan, okay? They are available used more than like when we bought what we have now. And so we have a budget. I actually have certain things that I want. I don't want to give up one of the things. I want the extended cargo room, okay? So I need the 15 seats and the extended cargo room. That is not easy to find, okay? I may have to give up on that. I don't want to. I don't care about the doors. I don't care about the height. I want the extended cargo room because I got a lot of people. I got a lot of stuff. Anyways, so hopefully, also looking for those, they do not advertise those very well at all. Like reading the listing, nobody puts how many seats it has. And they have, my hair is like doing all sorts of crazy things, isn't it? Anyways, but they have anywhere from 8-seaters, 10-seaters, 12 to 15. They don't advertise how many seats it has, which is very annoying. So car dealers, if you're hearing this, advertise how many seats it has because that's kind of dumb in my opinion. Anyways, so I've called many places and was like, well, how many seats does it have? Oh, it's got 8 seats. It can fit this many people. I'm like, I need a 15. They're like, well, why do you need a 15? Because I got 10 kids, y'all. And they're like, oh, it's really kind of comical. Anyways, and then whenever I'm like, I want the extended cargo room because you can take out some of the seats. They're like, well, you can take out some of the seats and that's how people have made up the cargo room. I need the seats and the cargo space, y'all. Anyways, it's a real problem. We will get there. We will get there. We will. Okay, anyways, I probably gave y'all way too much information. I've been looking for a van a lot. Okay, so Kendra Allen asks, how did you decide to trust the Lord with your family size? Was it a particular teaching or a pull on your heart from the Holy Spirit? How do you manage having so many littles and meeting the needs of your children who homeschool? Or that she homeschools as well. So you know what? I think I didn't answer one of those questions that was on here. I'll get back to that. Okay, sorry. I just remembered this and I really wanted to address this one question. So I will go back. First, Kendra Ellen. So actually Nathan and I just always had a love for children. We taught in children's ministry. We did youth ministry. We did middle school ministry, all before we ever had our own kids. And we just knew like when we were preparing for our marriage and engaged, we just knew that we wanted to have a large family. We believe that children are a blessing from the Lord and we were just excited to have our own family. So when we were engaged, I did read the book. It's called Full Quiver. I wrote down the author by Rick and Jan Hess. And it was a really good book and it was very eye-opening. I have not reread it and I read that like 19 years ago. That's a long time ago. But I still remember parts of it. I should probably reread it since I'm referencing this book. But I wouldn't say like we're not a part of the Full Quiver movement. Like I don't feel like that. I just feel like we are doing what we feel like God has called us to do. And like I mentioned before, like we thought that we might be done after 6 kids, but after praying about it and seeking the Lord, we didn't feel like we were done. And the same thing after we had Reagan and after we had Harper. So the way that I approach it is I pray after each baby that we have. Nathan and I pray after each baby that we have. And there are times where we are overwhelmed and we're like, goodness, what if, like, I don't know that we can have one more. But when we sit down and we pray and we really seek God about it, we do not feel to do anything in permanent measures to not have any more children. And the truth is, no matter how many kids you have, being a parent is overwhelming. We're raising humans, like it's not supposed to be super easy. But we know that we are doing what God has called us to do and that He will guide us every step of the way. So hopefully that answers those questions. Having so many littles and meeting the needs of the olders. That is, I wouldn't say it's necessarily hard. It's just making time. Just like if you only have 3 kids, you have to still schedule, plan time one-on-one with each of them, plan time with your spouse. It's important to us, so we make time to do it. Right now, we are slowly taking the kids out one by one to go shopping for the things that they need. I'll go run an errand and, a kid will say, hey, Mom, can I come? And I'm like, absolutely. So we don't do like a perfect rotation with it. I mean, sometimes I'll say, you have come with me a lot. Let's see if so-and-so wants a turn. And stuff like that. We're just very mindful because we love and we care about our children. We want to spend time with them. It's really not that hard. As far as like having littles and bigs, I don't really think it's that hard either. Like, it's just, you just do it. I don't know. I don't have a really good answer for that. So I do have something on my mind that's in another question that I will get to kind of regarding the same thing. Okay, so I apologize. Going back to Mig's question, are you ever worried about how you are going to pay for anything? Yes. I mean, we are a single income family. We have had many times where it was like, oh, okay, I can't buy that. So I said that I don't really have budgeting tips. I pay all of our bills. What's left over is for gas and groceries. I try to, always have a certain amount of money in savings to pull from, regarding, like things that come up for the kids and stuff like that. And so I try to, save money towards that because stuff comes up all the time, or a blown tire or whatever. So we have had plenty of times where it's like, where we literally did have a blown tire. And it's like, we don't have the money for a tire right now. But the truth is that God provides, okay? God is our source. He has provided so many times over the years. Sorry, I'm getting hot. So many times over the years for our family. Like, I literally have testimony of the things that God has provided for us. And I would say it's a very humbling place to be, but it's also amazing because God does supernatural things every single day. God performs miracles. And sometimes that miracle is, a tire. We actually had God provide one time. We had a roof leak. And God literally, like, we woke up the next day to $500 cash in our mailbox. And it was to pay for our, deductible to getting the roof fixed. And that's just where our trust and hope is. And I think people want budgeting advice as far as like a perfect science, like A plus B equals C, and then you can pay all your bills. But that isn't how we're called to live as believers. And that isn't how we're called to live with having a large family. Like, when God called us to this, that didn't mean that he wouldn't supply the needs that our children have or that we would have as a family. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to drive a brand new Ford Transit and cruising up and down the street, and I'm perfectly fine with that. God's going to provide that 15-passenger van that I need. If it has a cargo space, I will be singing glory, hallelujah. I will be singing that anyways. I will be very thankful for a 15-passenger van, even without the cargo space. But it's just, I think, being humbled before the Lord and just knowing that he is our provider. So yes, I do worry. I do stress about it sometimes, but then I just stop and pray and I have to give it back to God. And whenever I'm not in that space of giving it back to God, Nathan usually is like, we're usually like, he's there and I'm not. And then, he helps me. And then sometimes he's not in that space and I help him. That's just what a marriage is helping each other when either one is weak. And Nathan will remind me, he's like, God's got this. We don't know how it may come about, but God will provide it. So have trust in that. Okay, so I apologize that I had skipped over that question. I think I know what I'm doing here. Okay, so MJG asked, what versions of the Bible does your family read? So I like the NIV or the New Living Translation, but we do either of those, but we also do New King James Version. So Kaylee asked, do all of the kids have exactly their dad's eyes like her, which I'm assuming that you're referring to Kinley. How many boys and girls do you have, and how old are you and your husband? So we actually, funny enough, have a mix of the kids' eyes. We have several like super dark brown eyes. We have several hazel and blue eyes. So Addie actually had really, really blue eyes, but they're turning hazel. she's not excited about that. Jackson's are like crystal blue. So I don't think his will go away. So on my dad's side of the family, they have blue eyes. I have hazel and Nathan has hazel. So it's kind of funny the mix that we have. Logan's is like almost green, which I'm assuming that they're hazel and they'll probably change some, but they are like almost green, which is really kind of cool. So we have 7 girls and 3 boys. We don't know what we're having yet. And I am 36. I'll be 37 in April, and Nathan is 39. He will be 40 in June. Don't tell him I told you that. Oh, okay, so Jules would like to know, what bedtimes do we have for our children, and how does that change as they get older into their teen years? So this was the question that I was thinking of having little kids and big kids. So bedtimes definitely change as they approach their teen years, and that's the fun of having older kids. So the little kids go to bed, so that would be Reagan, Harper, and Drew, go to bed around 8:15 to 8:30. We try to get Jackson, Miley, and Logan in bed about 9. We're not always really good with that. Because when the little kids are in bed is when we will do stuff with the older kids. We'll play a game that's easier to play without little kids around. We will watch a movie or a show that we want to watch uninterrupted from little kids. So that's how it's kind of changed. So the older girls go to bed probably closer to 10. We want them to be in bed by 9:30, so then it would give Nathan and I time before we go to bed, but we haven't been perfect with that either because we kind of get carried away with spending time with them in the evenings. So anyways, it does change, but as long as like they're waking, so then the older girls kind of hang out in their room and read or talk, or I don't know what they do. I go to bed. But as long as they're getting up and doing their schoolwork, we don't super stress about it. But once they're starting to like get grouchy and wanting to sleep in a lot, then we're like, okay, guys, y'all are staying up a little too late. Okay, so fun question. Simply Living, please ask, do you ever think about the number of grandkids that you will have? Yes, we do. And that actually really excites us. And that's one of the things that we talked about when we were like, hey, we want to have a big family. It's how cool would it be to have like a ton of grandkids? So our thought was, and even like Nathan will still remind me of this to this day, is think of the future. Think of the big picture on the days that are overwhelming, is like in the holidays when all the kids come back home and we have a ton of grandkids and stuff like that. Like the thought of always having a full house really overjoys us and really just makes our heart very happy. Hence the 10, almost 11 kids. You say hi? Get your hair out of your face. So I got a little helper now. Okay, so the next question is, how do you manage sleep with each new baby? All right, y'all, 10 kids. You think I would be a pro at this. You think I would have this down to a science. I don't. And this is actually one of the many things that I struggle with. I am not really good with sleep training, like at all. Our older kids were naturally sleep trained, like they were just really good sleepers. Our younger kids, not so much, which is hard because I'm getting older. I need more sleep anyway. So, but I do have a secret weapon for y'all. Are y'all ready for this? My cousin, Chrissy, has a baby sleep consultant company. You can check her out. Her company name is Monkey Roo Sleep. She has a YouTube channel and she's on Instagram, and she shares all of these tips on getting your babies to sleep through the night. She also will do consultations over the phone and will help you with whatever problem that you're having. Absolutely amazing. She helped me with Drew, and I may be calling her for Kinley. Drew was a terrible sleeper. Like I had no idea what to do. Kinley? No, I'm talking about Kinley. Kinley isn't really that bad. Like I don't, like I feel like I can handle it anyways, but Drew, I was out of my realm. Anyways, but she helped us a lot. I will put all of her information in the description box below, so check her out if you're having any problems with your kids sleeping. Okay, so Sammy Q asks, do you give your children an allowance? No, we don't. I love the idea of giving the kids a set allowance, and then they are responsible for paying for certain things, like as far as like if they want a special treat or something like that. I don't do that. I need to. but we just haven't gotten there yet. But with that, we do have a family chore system. Everybody helps, everybody participates, including mom and dad, because being a family, we are a team and we all take care of everything together. It's kind of the approach that we take. But with that said, if the kids want to go skating or bowling or whatever with their friends to the movies, we pay for those things. And overall, our kids are pretty good about doing chores. It's just kind of how our family dynamics work. But if they want to earn extra money for whatever and save for it, I am all about that. Logan is actually working towards a new device because he broke his, and I'm not just going to go buy a new one. Sure, I could, but he really wouldn't learn anything in that. So he is doing extra work around the house and is saving towards a new device. So a big thing that we will pay for is like yard work or any extra like deep cleaning that I just don't have the time to get to or whatever. Certain kids, it's more certain kids, they'll ask like, can I do something to earn extra money? So, and we will do that. So kind of like as needed, I guess you'd say. So Victoria asked, what grades are all of your kids in and how do you homeschool with so many different grades? So it's not, I jokingly refer to our homeschool as a 3-ring circus. I do have several videos on homeschooling and homeschooling multiple kids and homeschooling with little kids. I will try to remember to link those in the description box below. If not, they're just YouTube alone. Like there are so many moms on YouTube who have shared what they do. And that's where I have gotten a lot of tips from myself. So you can just like search that on YouTube and look for it. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Does that make sense? Like, you just have to find what works for your family and what works for your kids. And that can change over time as well. What are you doing? So our kids' grades are Taylor, you okay? Yeah. Taylor's in 9th, Addison's in 8th, Peyton's in 7th, Jackson's in 5th, Miley's in 3rd, Logan's in 2nd, Reagan's in pre-K. Okay. That kind of covers all that, right? School too. Yeah, and you're in pre-K too, huh? Mm-hmm. She goes to her preschool class in our co-op. Yeah. Okay. All right, so Hendry family asks, do you have any special needs kids? Wondering if you have any advice on how to handle homeschooling and just life in general when one kid constantly derails plans, challenges, fights with siblings and demands so much extra help and attention. She kind of shared what they're going through. It is hard. I don't have, quote, a special needs kid. But, I mean, sure, aren't my kids, you know, will act out or whatever, and it will change our homeschool day. The only thing that I do is redirect that behavior. Like, hey, this is school time. This is what's expected of you. If it's like a constant thing, like I would try to find something for that child to focus on, whether if it's something that they love Legos, like give them a Lego creation book and let them do Legos while you work with other kids to kind of keep them busy. That's what I would do if I was in that situation. I would try to redirect that behavior as best as I could. The other thing is with my situation with little kids, if I give my little kids the attention first, that helps so much. So I will sit down with Reagan, Harper, Drew, and, you know, do whatever activity I have planned, and Kinley, whatever activity I have planned. Harper's now over there. So I'm wondering if you don't sit down and give him attention first, if that doesn't help. A lot of times that's all that it is. But that, I mean, outside of that with special needs, I don't really know. Like, I'm happy that you're seeking help and stuff like that. You're just gonna have to find what works for you. Like, I know it's hard. It's hard. So Chelsea asks, how do you handle hand-me-downs? Do you keep everything? Do I ever deal with postpartum depression? So yes, I have kept everything. I have clothes that Taylor wore. I just pulled out something for Kinley and I'm like, Taylor wore this. Yeah, I've kept everything. With that said, whenever I was pregnant with Reagan, I majorly, yep, I was pregnant with you too. I majorly reorganized all the kids' clothes that we had. So I had bins upon bins upon bins of clothes, and we just don't have that much room to store stuff. We have everything stored in the attic in a tote. So originally when we were doing this, we bought like the 32, the big tote, because we thought was smart. That was not smart, because putting clothes in that is very, very heavy. So I reorganized them and I got the smaller, just the standard size tote for every size. And now with that said, I do have a couple of the big totes left because I'm frugal and I can't just like get rid of them. And I'm like, well, Nathan, I know that they're heavy, but I only have this much instead of, you know, more. Anyways, so I pared down. So, yep. I pared down every size to one tote. So I have a size 3 to 6 months, one tote for boy and girl and per season. So I did get rid of a lot of stuff and just went through and kept my absolute favorites. So yes, I do keep everything. But I still have to buy stuff because there's still holes, like kids wear out stuff. I mean, holes, like gaps in what I have. Like I might not have enough pairs of pants or something like that. Not holes in the clothes. Anyways, do I ever deal with postpartum depression? I haven't had like quote postpartum depression. With our first few kids, I did definitely struggle with baby blues. I probably was close to postpartum depression after Jackson, but it was more with what we were going through in our lives. I don't know that it was, and just me having had a baby magnified those feelings that I was having. But I have struggled with depression here and there, but not anything like where I sought counsel or anything like that. I have just kind of prayed through the issues that I've had, and like talked to Nathan and friends. Like, so I haven't had like quote clinical depression or postpartum depression. With that said, it's very real, very, very real. And I think if you feel like you need help, definitely people need to get help. I almost did after Jackson. My issue was I wanted to move back to Florida to be close to family, and Nathan didn't. And Nathan finally gave in and moved me back to Florida, and I was happy. So I didn't ever seek counsel. Anyway, so all right. Rachel asks, which of your kids are shy, which are most outgoing, and do the kids like filming? Okay, so I'm not going to okay, I don't take offense to this question at all, but I'm not going to like label the kids like shy or funny or I don't know. I just don't like doing that because some of our kids really do struggle with some things, and I don't want to say that. But we have a very wide mix of personalities in our house is what I will say. So, and do the kids like filming? So some of our kids don't like being on camera. Some of them don't mind. And I just ask them with whatever's happening or whatever, do you mind if I film this? And if they say no, I don't. And that's it. I don't want to make them be in a video if they don't want to be. So Mimi asks if I can tell a little bit about each child, maybe 1 to 3 question, easy interview with them. That would actually be a whole separate video. This is probably way too long. They all have very, very different personalities and are just a lot of fun. They really are. Okay. Fleur North asks, do you plan your pregnancies, trust God with the size of your family, or both? So I kind of already addressed this. I honestly just pray after each baby. So we knew that we wanted to have a large family. And very quickly we had 3 babies. Like within 26 months, I had 3 babies, a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a newborn. It was very, very overwhelming. And be careful. No, don't open that. I was very overwhelmed. And God really dealt with me on my feelings and was like, just live for the now. Like, I felt like I had to prepare for 20 kids. Like, that's insane, to prepare when you only have 3. God isn't going to give me the means for 20 kids whenever I only have 3. And each, step of adding to our family, God has just, obviously supplied whatever we need. So kind of planned, also trusting God. Hopefully that answers the question. That's just how I have approached it. And God helped me to focus on the now, focus on what I have now before me. Like right now, I just need to plan for 11th baby. I don't need to worry if I'm going to have 2 or 3 more kids because I'm not there yet. Okay, so Victoria asks, how do you discipline effectively? How did you meet Nathan, and how did y'all decide to have a big family? Okay, so how do you discipline effectively? I think we really just take the approach of talking to our kids, sitting down with them one-on-one, redirecting behavior. We have done different things in the past of, writing sentences, like if it's a constant behavior, you know, I will not hit my brother or my sister or whatever, stuff like that. One thing that we will do is if a kid is especially acting out, like, and it's just bad behavior, like there's not like a cause behind it, we will give them some extra work to do. So that may be folding a basket of laundry or picking up the playroom or whatever. So that's one thing that we do. And that does help. Like, I'll warn the kids, if you keep this up, you will get an extra chore today. And usually that's all that I have to say because they don't want an extra chore. Okay, how did Nathan and I meet? We actually met through my cousin. Nathan graduated with one of my cousins, and I was hanging out with my cousin one night, and I met Nathan, and he started inviting me to a Bible study and to church, and I went, and which was amazing because I desperately needed Jesus in my life, and the rest is history. Like, we just kind of clicked, and that was it. I was 16, and he was 19. We've been together ever since. How did y'all decide to have a big family? I kind of already touched on that. Okay, so Vicky, full of love, asked, with so many children and interruptions that come with it, do you feel your children, especially the older ones, are academically where they should be if tested tomorrow? Does your state require record keeping? Does your husband ever get upset when he comes home from work and the chores are not done from the kids? So I'll first answer about Nathan. Nathan does not get upset about much in life. He is so laid back. The messes don't bother him at all. The messes bother me. Nathan could come home and it's an absolute disaster, and he just loves on the kids, loves on me, asks what he can help with, and that's it. Like, he does not, the messes don't bother him at all. In fact, our bedroom's a mess. And say if I haven't gotten to his work clothes, washing them, he'll come home and he'll ask, did you get a chance to wash my work clothes? I'll be like, no, I'm sorry, I forgot. He says, okay. And he goes and he washes his clothes. He's really amazing. I honestly feel bad, like, whenever I don't get to this stuff, because he never complains. I'm like, I am so sorry. I mean, I usually jump in and do, no, I'm sorry, I forgot, I'll go do it. And he'll usually say, no, I got it, because he's just absolutely amazing. Okay, so as far as testing, our state does not require testing, but I do turn in a portfolio evaluation for each of the kids every single year. You're a big girl. Yeah, you are bigger. Mm-hmm. And so I don't teach to a test, and that is one of the many, many reasons that I decided to homeschool, is because I feel like the education system has gotten so focused on teaching towards that test, teaching for the kids to pass this test. I remember whenever I was in school, and I don't think that is the way to learn. So I'm not going to answer this question the way that you probably want me to, because that is the beauty in homeschooling, is I can teach to, one, the way that my kids learn. We can learn the things that they are interested in. Jackson is enamored with animals. He can tell you so many facts and whatever, okay, about animals. I hear it all day long. And so I'm like, you know so much. Why don't you start writing a book on it? Why don't you make me a poster board on it? And he loves it because he loves what he's doing. And there is so much beauty in that, especially with homeschooling. And I just love that I have the freedom to do that. And that is what I focus on. Now, yes, we have a lot of interruptions with our homeschool, and I try to break away if it's really bad, like today. Like, I had to get Jackson's reading lesson done. And obviously I have older kids that can help now. So I will, use them sometimes to help so that I can focus on the things that need to be focused on. But I think it's important to focus on what the kids need and not worry about a test. And that is how I focus my homeschool on. If somebody needs more time to learn their multiplication tables instead of the third grade school year or whatever, that's fine, because everybody learns at a different pace. Everybody learns in a different way. And that is what I focus on. So hopefully that answers your question. And you're not too disappointed in me saying about having them tested tomorrow. I'm just not going to worry about that because I don't have to. Okay, so Sandra Wiley asks, what are your hobbies, reading, sewing, and will you always live in Florida? So I actually have a ton of hobbies. I have ADD with hobbies. I've done everything. I love to crochet. I can sew very basic, simple things. I really thought that I would get more into sewing, but it's kind of time consuming. Maybe I will do more with that, but I have made things over the years for the kids, skirts and embroidered not embroidered. I've made shirts and like outlined them and stuff like that. We've made bags. We've done a few things. I love to garden. Said crochet. I used a scrapbook. I've made hair bows. I've done everything. I like to redo furniture. I was gonna say I used to do that. I haven't done that in a while. I really like to decorate. I really like all the things, y'all. All the things. Okay, so will your children ever get the opportunity to go to private school or public school? And what qualifies you to be a home teacher? Okay, so I kind of already addressed this. If our kids, or if I ever felt the need for them to go to school outside of our home, of course we would address it and we would pray about it and we would do what is best for each individual child, not just for our family as a whole. Like, it matters what each child needs.
What is that for?
The rice. Will you turn it off, please? Thank you. So what qualifies you to be a home teacher? So I'm in the state of Florida. I don't have to have a teaching certificate or anything like that. I'm their mom, and that's what qualifies me. Nobody's going to know their kids better than their mother. That's me. Okay, Mama D and family. Love your channel and excited for another Q&A. How did you decide which homeschool curriculum to use? And have you used the same one for years, or do you change it up for each child depending on their needs and learning styles? So I definitely changed it up. I am not afraid to seek outside of what I have been doing. So price depends a lot on it. I can't afford a super expensive curriculum. With that said, if I think this curriculum would be really good to help with whatever the child is having, you know, like I just feel like would be a good fit for them, I will budget that and make that work. But over the years, I have just learned how to do homeschooling pretty frugally. I do a lot of research. I ask a lot of friends, and just kind of find what works. We actually switched things for a few of our kids this year because it just wasn't working. And the curriculum that I was using was the Good and the Beautiful for them. And I love it. It's a great curriculum. It works for my oldest kids. And I do the free version. But it wasn't working. So I went and I spent a couple $100s on a new curriculum for these other kids. Anyways, I just don't want to call out names but anyways, yeah, it's hard. You just got to research and figure out what works, but also not be afraid to change either, which is hard, especially when you spend money on something. But we live and we learn and we try our best. Okay. Lacey Ramsey asked, baby must-haves and mama labor must-haves. So I kind of said my baby must-haves. I actually really, really like those muslin blankets for babies. So that is definitely a must-have. I'm not like a big gadget person. I feel like the baby just needs clothes, blanket, a way to be fed, and the baby's mama. Like, the baby just needs you. Labor must-haves, again, I'm actually really kind of easy. For Kinley, the only thing that I did different is I actually had a gown, but it wasn't like a hospital gown that I brought. It was more like a nightgown that was like hospital friendly, like it unbuttoned if it needed to be all the way down. And that was given to me. And I actually really, really liked that. It was so much more comfortable than the hospital gown. I really enjoyed having that. And I don't even know what I did with it. Where did I put that thing? I'm gonna have to find it. So that, I also, with Kinley, I had worship music playing. I had never done that before, and I really like that too. So that is definitely something that I will do again. It's worship music. I will find that gown, hopefully, and I know I have it somewhere. Use that. Clothes for the baby, a blanket, mom, and I need Nathan. That's it. And prayer, lots of prayer. Okay, Victoria asked, would you guys ever adopt? Have you considered it? I would love to adopt. I would absolutely love to adopt. That was actually originally a part of our plan. And it just kind of, I don't know, like we didn't lose sight of it. I have mentioned it over the years to Nathan, and Nathan has kind of felt, let's wait until our kids are older. Naturally, we have kept having kids, so we still have little kids. So maybe in the future, whenever like our youngest is like 5 or something like that, we would adopt. I would love to adopt. I have such a heart for adoption. With that said, if it's not in the cards for us, I know that I can help other families, like support them with, adoption fundraisers, prayer, all of those sorts of things. And that we've had several friends adopt, and I am always so honored to help in some small way, because I think adoption is absolutely beautiful. Another budget question. I kind of went through that. Do you plan on moving to a bigger house to accommodate your growing family? So it's funny. We get this question a lot. I feel like we are so blessed. We don't need a massive house. We do need another bathroom. I will complain about that for a little bit. We have 2 potties, y'all. We don't even need another shower. We just need another sink and another toilet, which we have talked about converting the garage and adding a bathroom. Honestly, the last 2 years, we have been looking to move, not necessarily to a bigger house. What matters in a house a lot is the floor plan and how it works for your family, not so much the size of the house. And there's just some things. I would love to build a house. That is my dream, is to build a house. I don't know if it's going to happen or not. We did put in a couple offers this past year on land, and people beat us to it, unfortunately. The market is just crazy right now. I think we put in 3 offers and it didn't happen. So I see that as God has us here for now, and I'm thankful. We live, in a great house, in a great neighborhood, and I'm just thankful, and I can respect the boundaries that the Lord has placed before us, because He knows things that we do not know. So I don't necessarily feel like I need a bigger house, and we actually addressed this in our family like several years ago. And actually we talk about it with our kids and all of that, because they're the ones who live here too. We could have moved in, I call it a cookie cutter subdivision, and had like a 3,500 square foot house. Yes, it's bigger. Yes, we'd have more potties, but the yard would be a lot smaller. And where we live now, we have 2/3 of an acre. And my kids love playing outside, and I love that they have that freedom to go outside. And we talked about it. Would y'all much rather live in a bigger house with a smaller yard? Because we could do that. And everybody agreed that they wanted to stay here and have a bigger yard until we were able to get land and maybe build or put a house on it or something like that. So that's what we have decided to do. So our heart is really to have a handful of acres and build a house on it. I don't think it'll be a massive house. It'll be what we can afford. And I think that there's beauty in recognizing what you can afford and not bite off more than what you can chew. So anyways, maybe one day we'll see if God opens that door. He opens it, and I will be very thankful. And if it's to stay here, I am thankful too. Okay, so this is the hot topic question. Are you vaccinating your children? So I knew that this question would come up sooner or later. So actually, with our first several kids, we followed. Okay. Okay, dinner bell's ringing. I gotta stop. Okay, so we did follow the traditional schedule of vaccinations with our first few kids. And the more and more that I was researching and looking into it, I was not at peace with fully vaccinating. So we are taking a delayed vaccine approach with our kids now. And back whenever I was a young mom, I asked questions, and it was very much presented, you just have to do it because it's what's required of you, basically. Don't think about it, just do it, was the advice that I got from many different people, actually. And it just never sat right with me. I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. Okay, I really have to go. Dinner bell's ringing. Drew's up from his nap. You okay? Okay, so I took matters into my own hands once I obviously had a little bit more knowledge, and we have now taken the approach of delayed vaccines. So let me see. So I talked about that. What do you do to keep What do you do to keep your littles occupied with something productive and not destroying the entire house during the school day, every day, or fighting with each other? So I do have a couple of videos on that, but that is just kind of like the nature of having little ones. Again, giving them love first, giving them an activity. That's kind of what I try to do. And it's not always easy. Just know that messes clean up. He can stay, baby. It's fine. Come here, Drew. Come here.
Do you want me to set the oven on something?
No, it's fine. Addie's helping with dinner right now. So say hi, Juju. Say hi. So I gotta go. But just know that messes clean up. It's the best that we can do. That's all that we can do is try our absolute best. And the last thing that I want to say is I meant to say this, I think it was Glory in the Mundane that had asked about losing your cool with your kids, basically. Like I said, I am not a perfect mom. Nobody's perfect, okay? Whether you're a mom or not a mom or whatever, nobody's perfect. But there is beauty in admitting when we're wrong, apologizing, and trying our best the next day, the next hour in some cases. When our kids see us humble before them and apologize and admitting when we're wrong, we're teaching them to do that as well. And I believe that that is so important to remember. Yeah, so I hope that this helped address some questions. I know it's getting crazy in here. I feel like I was a little botchy on some of them. It's hard. I really read through them really good. And I think I was kind of like pulling because there were so many questions that were kind of the same. And I hope I gave justice to where it was, especially with budgeting, because that was a huge question. And with motherhood and just raising our children, especially when we feel like we fall short. Okay. I feel like most moms feel that way because, you know, there's no way that we can be absolutely perfect. But all that we can do, like I said, is try our best, ask for forgiveness, model that behavior for our kids, and keep on swimming and keep on trying. Oh, goodness. So I apologize. This is probably very, very long. But I wanted to give the time to the questions that it needed it. And I hope that I helped bring light to some things as well. And we'll see y'all in the next video. Thanks.